So today we have a guest with us. I'm going to give her a chance to introduce herself here in just a moment. One of the reasons why we chose our guest today is, you know, there's 1.6 million women that are vets in the U.S. today. 30% of them being post 9/11 vet era. So, they're practically pretty young. And the suicide numbers of female soldiers and vets have went up 85% in the last 2 decades. So having our guest on tonight was very, very huge for us, and we appreciate her for coming in and spending some time with us and kind of going over some of the things that she went through. I'll go ahead and let her introduce herself as of now.
Hello, my name is Monica Hernandez. I am a U.S. Army vet. Uh, my MOS was the 88 Mike. I deployed for 15 months to Iraq. So, yeah, that's me.
So, um, Monica, we appreciate you coming on. We'd like to kind of talk to you a little bit. What was the defining moment you chose? You wanted to use the army as a career.
Honestly, this town that I'm from it's- it has its ups and
We
its
have a guest
downs,
with us.
and
I'm gonna.
I was kind of I wasn't going down the right path, and my brother had joined the Marines, and stuff was looking good for him, and I was just I just figured, hey, maybe this will take me in the right direction. And once I signed those papers and I took off, it just changed my life. And it's kind of where that's what basically, like, in a nutshell, it was just getting away from just going down the wrong path.
Okay. Okay. You like to kind of tell us some of your story? There's got to be some things that you witnessed that maybe me and Widener wouldn't have, being males in the military, or like, let us know your story. Your adversity, the stuff that made you in the deepest pits. That you got yourself out of.
Well, like I said earlier, when I introduced myself, I did a 15-month tour in Iraq, and if you know anyone that's been away from their family that long, it's not too good on anybody. Um, but just like my job, I was a 88 Mike, which is a truck. Basically, it's just a truck driver, and that was my job out there. Um, when I got out there, they kind of split my unit up, and I was attached to an artillery unit. So things were kind of a lot different. The unit that I had originally deployed with, they stayed in the wire. And the unit that I attached to, which the artillery unit, we were going outside the wire. If it wasn't every day, it was every other day, and that's 15 months straight just doing that. Um, like, and just driving and coming across and getting hit, like mortar rounds or RPGs or IEDs, like everything, and that's you constantly having to be vigilant. Um, I think one of the biggest things that bothered me was, like, I guess, the people that the people we had to face. Like, you're pointing your because like sometimes, like, well, there was like hours of driving, and you're in the Humvee and you can only go like 35 miles per hour, so our road trips were, they were hours long.
Yes.
So we would switch out the gunners and the drivers.
Yep.
And when you have a 50 cal, and you're not knowing like who is a threat to you, you're having to point that weapon to you know, a child. I think that was the worst part that of like the whole deployment and stuff. Um, but yeah, that's base like that was like the main thing that affected me when I got home. Just
Right. Right.
you like it's not an everyday thing that you do that.
Not at all.
Um, Now, with that being said, take a minute and do you think with your combat experience that it was downplayed because you're a female?
When I first got to the unit, yeah, uh, they because a lot of people don't. Well, I'm not sure. Like a lot of the new army, but now females are allowed to be, in what used to be all male uh, MOSs, and but when I was there, like it was with the artillery guys, it was all male, and
Hmm.
so they kind of like they were always second guessing, like leaving us a job or like it was always like, oh, like, well, she's a female, like she can't do this, or like there's times where and it took a while, honestly, for them to actually allow the females to get up and be in the gunner positions. But we begged them, like we were out there with them. We can hold our own, and it took us a while to prove ourselves. But once they did that, like it was, I guess they realized, like that they could rely on us, and but yeah, it was pretty hard at the beginning just to kind of prove myself, not having that, I guess, that stereotype of them like
Yeah.
just second guessing us.
No, like when people think about a combat veteran, you know, I know it's wrong and stuff, and it's been said that when you think about a combat veteran, you think about a male. Do you ever feel invisible in the big picture of the combat veterans because of this idea that combat veterans are mainly males?
uh yeah, a lot of times I get people like questioning, um like they'll like grill me on, like, oh, because I have a tattoo of my, because well, obviously I got my combat action badge out there, and I
Right,
have
right.
like my dates of deployment on there, and I'll have
Mm-hmm.
people occasionally come up to me and be like, oh, so you know you were in the army, what was your MOS, did you deploy,
Mm-hmm.
well, why'd you do this, and I always get that, but I think there's
Yeah.
more, uh well, I guess once I hate that I have to do that a lot of times, that I have to explain myself.
Right.
But then after that, like I get the respect from them. I guess that they would give a male without having to question him.
Um. With I get that, and I mean Widener and I, we were in field artillery unit. We had a few females attached to our unit, and they were mechanics, and it was it was quite a transition, because when we were a male unit, you know, things were said, things were done a little
Right.
different, and then when we got attached to the females, especially like the leadership, kind of had to change how they talk, change how they would, say things. I mean, uh, and of course there was a few slip ups. We had a first sergeant that did not like how we performed in a run and made a comment and immediately had to change his you know wording of what he said. And that what was crazy about it, Weiner, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, the females that came to our unit, they didn't come to about what 2-3 months right before we deployed. I mean, like they were practically
Yeah.
new to this.
I honestly don't even know how they got there. like you said, it was two mechanics and we had one supply sergeant, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But with that being said, as Monica being an 88 Mike, and the next thing you know, she's throwing an artillery unit, which we all know artillery guys are. It's a whole different
We're
breed
wild.
of people, and
Yeah.
like I
Wild
think
people.
that right there is kind of setting people up for failure in general. I
Yeah.
mean, so that's got to be like a culture shock for you too. Like when you went into that unit and got attached to that unit.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
How did,
definitely. It definitely was.
how did you try to balance yourself out for that?
Well, I've always been the type of person like I don't like people telling me no, or I always have to prove myself. And it kind of sucked because there are those females that they'll use that as a crutch, like being a female. Um, but thankfully, I was blessed with there were four of us. One of them got injured mid deployment, but there were four of us that were attached to the artillery unit, and we were we were some of the best soldiers that they said that they've ever worked with. Like, and that's saying like having other males, not females, because this was the first time they were getting the females in the unit. Also, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but it was, I don't know, like just the whole way of thinking is kind of different. But I guess it was just kind of just us like trying to prove ourselves that we never gave up um, doing so.
Monica, I hate to bother you real quick, but is your mic somewhere close to like your hands or anything? I think something's rubbing the mic or something. We're getting some feedback on that. I don't know what it is. Is it you, Widener, or?
No,
Oh, okay. All right. But anyways,
probably was it.
Go back to your stuff. I'll
It'll
shut
be
up
right.
now. I'll shut up. So, Monica, I wanna sit here and I wanna when you got out and you came home. Um, I know for me, I came home to a family that I didn't have before I went. I had a daughter that was born during a deployment. When I left, Widener can attest, I was a little wild. I did things in a wild manner most of the time. And when I came home, it was a culture shock because I went from being this wild, fun, crazy guy to being a dad.
Yeah.
And, um, I'm not, it was it was the first time I ever had to actually be a father, and stuff like that. So my coming home it was surreal. I had a lot to be thankful for, but it was hard to notice that, with everything that was going on in your mind and stuff like that. Um, had issues keeping employment, gainful employment.
Yeah.
Of course, it caused problems with me and my ex-wife, and which ultimately, I think, you know, I think it ultimately led to the things that led to our divorce. But when you got out, and you came back, was it was it hard to keep a job? Was it hard to keep like a significant other around, or without trying to explain to them what was going on?
Yeah, definitely. I remember when I first got out, because when I first got out, I started going like using my GI Bill.
Hmm.
So I was just going to school, but then I wanted to. Okay, backtracking. I was put on medication and stuff because of my PTSD, depression, and all that stuff. So so I was just going to school, and after a while, like it would kind of bother me, because I didn't like I wanted to just kind of fit in, I wanted to be normal like every other civilian.
Right.
So I wanted to get a job. So I went and applied. And it was the worst thing I could have done for myself. When I went to apply, it was during the holidays, so it was right before Black Friday.
Oh God.
Oh
Yeah.
shit.
So that was like that right there was just like, oh God, like I fucked up. Um but yeah,
Oh
so
shit.
that was gonna be my first like shift was a Black Friday, and I literally walked out because I had an anxiety attack where there was like too many people around me, and I was like, it was loud, and I had never dealt with that ever. And I was just like, oh my God, like, something's wrong. But yeah, it took me a while. It took me a while to like actually, get a job and actually keep it without, being affected by anything. But that was one of the worst things, was that one experience. Um, but just wanting to like fit in, was it sucked. And then relationship wise, I was very, I don't know if it was because I didn't want to share, or if it was the medication, but I wasn't as outgoing as I am now. I've come a long way from where I was before, but I wouldn't share like
Right.
anything at all. I would just like, they'd be like, "Oh, you were in the army?" Yeah, and that was it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't share, and I guess not just like in relationships, like with a significant other, but relationships period, like in general. It was just like I
Family,
was kind of,
friends.
yeah.
Yep.
And you commented earlier about you had family in the
Yeah.
military. Um, was it hard to talk to them about anything because they were military? You didn't want to come off as the weak one and say, "Hey, look, this is all fucking me up." Like, was it hard to sit down with them and say, "You know what? Look, this is what's bothering me," or whatever? Because you felt like maybe they would judge you because they went through it, and or whatever. Did you ever feel that way?
Honestly, no. Well, like with my dad, he was prior military, and he didn't see war. He was during the era of the Vietnam War,
Mhm.
but he never saw,
Right.
war.
Yeah.
So it was more of like keeping it away from him, because I didn't want him to know like what I went through, and be
Mhm.
because like I said, my brother was in the Marines, and so I was still in high school when he took off.
Right.
And so I saw what my parents went through when he was deployed, so I wanted to hide that from my dad. But as far
Right.
as me,
Right.
like, yeah, but as far as me, like, talking to my brother about it, it was, I didn't really get to talk to him, because at the time that I was deployed, he was getting ready to deploy again. Um,
Mm.
so I kind of missed it, but my dad at one point told me that he had talked to him about what I went through. It was of one of the firefights that I got into. And after that, I didn't want to talk to my brother anymore, because he took it hard. He was more scared than anything that I was put in that situation, because he had already been through it. So
Right.
I kind of kept it from him for a while also.
So you deployed first, and then your brother was deploying.
Well, he had deployed when I was still in high school.
You just going to a second deployment, or
Yeah, he was going,
okay?
he did multiple, because, well, Marines do shorter
Yeah.
deployments.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, he was already deploying. I don't know if it was his second or his third deployment he was getting ready for.
Okay.
So
Wow.
That makes sense.
Yeah. That's a whole nother. That's a whole nother. Uh, subject that's crazy to
yeah,
me. The Marines are this elite force. In the public eye, and their deployments are way shorter than the ones that we went through. And I mean, if we only had to go for 6 months at a time, I mean, I don't think it would have been near as detriment to
yeah,
our mental
Well, I
health and
mean,
stuff like that. But
you can
but
step
it's more
back.
times taken away from it.
Yeah, yeah. You can't take away from that by any means.
No.
Yeah. Um, Now I got a question for you. It's how did you cope with the things with your PTSD and stuff when you got back? You didn't want to talk to anybody. You didn't want to talk to friends. You didn't want to talk to family. What was your coping mechanisms?
Well, when I first got back, like I had told you guys a while ago, I was put on medication. And like basically when you get out, they're just like, "Hey, you need to go see someone, talk about whatever," which is I feel I just hate that they do that to us because they make us feel like, going to talk to them, they're going to help us out, but in reality, all they do is put us on medication. So
Mm-hmm.
I was just taking medication, and I I wasn't liking it. Like I was just like a zombie, I would just go to school, go home, and I would just want to sleep. And I hated it. And a lot of times, um, like I was talking to my girlfriend about the other day, like I just wanted to be normal, Like I know that normal people, maybe like older folks, maybe take their vitamins and stuff, but you know, but I wanted to be normal. I didn't want to have to wake up, have to take medicine to be considered normal, So just I just randomly started working out, and that seemed to have helped me, like uh mentally, which it was crazy. I didn't know like how or why it was helping me, but I just continued working out, and like slowly but surely, like I was able to kind of like wean myself off of my medication completely. um and this was, I think, the last time I took some medication, or that medication that was prescribed to me, was like probably about 2011, 2012.
Okay.
Yeah, because I just,
Awesome.
yeah, I didn't want it.
Now, I know when they started putting me on medication, it took them a couple times to get it right.
Yeah.
You know, the first medication they put me on, man, made me have more anxiety than what I started with, because I was, I felt like everybody was staring at me. And see,
Yeah.
like I had such a shitty VA experience. The VA was it was like I had the ultimatum from somebody I was dating. You're going to go get help, or I'm leaving, whatever.
Yeah.
I went in to go get help, and I had to talk to this lady. And this lady, you could tell she was about to get off work. She didn't want to hear my story. She
Yeah.
didn't want to talk to me. She only did it because somebody threw me in her office, and she was asking me, some of the things that were bothering me, like me and Widener, we did convoys also, so, we kind of know where you're coming from on these convoys and stuff that you did. Um, I was telling her, like, I have a hard time driving on the right side of the road. And like I always try to drive on the left lane, and told her I hate going into crowded areas. And, she pretty much told me to get over myself. And she told me, you just drive in the lane you're supposed to drive in and get over yourself, um, kind of, really wasn't what I was looking for as far
Yeah.
as help.
Didn't help you.
Yeah, not at all. It wasn't until they sent me to a nonprofit, the Vet Center, where I got to speak to a lady that really kind of, trying to understand me. The first medication they put me on such anxiety, like where I felt like people were um, just staring at me all the time. Like I couldn't handle it. And so I told them, I was like, hey, this ain't gonna work. Like we gotta try something different. So they gave me something else. And I mean, this stuff zonked me out, man. Like I didn't
Yeah.
care what was going on. Like my sister tells a funny story about back when I did security and I was on this medication. There was people fighting like right in front of me. And she was like, are you gonna go break that up? What are you doing? I was like, let them fight it out. Like I could be
I'll
sitting
figure it out.
on the couch.
They'll figure it
I could be sitting on the couch. Somebody could hit me in the face with a baseball bat, and I'd be like, that kind of hurt. Like, and to me, it really wasn't helping because it was just putting me in this comatose state. So I went back, and then finally they got it right. But see, the thing where I'm getting at with this question is, like with all the heartaches of trying to find the right medication and the right stuff to help you with, do you ever feel did you ever feel like when you were taking the meds and you knew, like, at this time I have to take this medication and this medication or whatever? Did you ever feel like, you know what, I'm above this? This is all in my head. Like, there's people that are missing limbs and, you know, uh, face messed up or whatever. They have physical injuries, and all this is in my head. So maybe I should just quit taking this medication and just tough it out because that was what was taught to you while you were in.
Yeah. Honestly, no, I think I was just zombied out, like like you said too. Like I felt like we all had our different like effects of war. Um,
Sure.
and
Uh-huh.
that actually honestly never crossed my mind until after I got off the medication. But like you said, it sucks because I know a lot of times you hear that the side effects are worse than the actual, uh, what it's the medicine is supposed to be
Oh,
for.
Work. Yeah.
Yeah,
if you read the side effects of every medicine, you will never take a
yeah,
pill
Yeah.
one.
yeah,
Never.
and there was that one time where they were trying to figure out my medication also, and the medication that they put me on, I was already having thoughts, of suicide.
Uh-huh.
And then they put me on that medication, and like I actually attempted it. So,
Mm.
but yeah, it sucks like having to go through that. Like, that, and I think it was like it was that at that time when I actually realized and told myself, like I can't do this. Like I can't be on this medication. Like if it's
Right.
gonna make me think that way when I'm already like I just had the thoughts, and then it actually put me in that position to actually follow through with it. I
Uh-huh.
I think that's when I realized that I needed to do something else.
Wow.
Now, with you bringing that up, there was a stat that I brought up in a couple of podcasts before, talking about suicide survivors, the ones that have commit or attempted but were not successful. Looking back, what do you feel like you could have done or somebody could have done different to keep you from wanting to even attempt it or
Go that route.
yeah, go that route?
Just just asking the questions, like keeping trying to make you like stay busy. Um like I know it like my motivation was just so it was down and like just
Right.
abnormal. Like you can even like I know a lot of people like that know me, they know that I'm always smiling, always happy. But a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times I would use that to cover like how I was really feeling inside. And
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
like I mean just asking questions, a simple like, "Hey, what's up?" "Are you good?" Or just letting people like letting people know, like that you're there no matter what, even if they are having a good day. Just compliment them or anything, just be like, "Hey, you look good today. Like, how's everything going?" Anything, you know?
Yeah, oh man, I can't imagine. I've got a friend of mine I used to work with that her sister committed suicide. They were real close. Um, Here lately, she's been on my mind a lot. Especially starting this podcast and the stuff that we talk about on here. Um, and here lately, I've been every once in a while just sending her a message. Just ask her how she's doing. I, man, I'm so close with my sister and my brother. I couldn't. I don't know how I would react with something like that.
Yeah.
So after we started doing these researches and all this stuff for this podcast, it started making me think because, I kind of took it for granted when I worked for her, like, or worked with her, like I never took that time to sit down and really talk to her and really, uh, kind of pick her brain. We were friends, but as far as, just checking on her, I never did that until here lately, doing this podcast and stuff. Like we do these radio checks, kind of like what we were explaining, where you just text somebody, radio check,
Yeah.
say loud and clear, whatever, and the thing is, you don't have to go in a whole lot of detail like you're saying, just check on that person,
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, that I don't know, that's just something that this is good because this is kind of what we're talking about, like with you being a suicide survivor, attempted and you're still here with us is, and able to come on this platform and talk about it is huge. And, I appreciate the fact that you're able to, but, one of the things that I got a question about that is in your deepest, darkest time when you were, about to attempt this, in the back of your mind, were you ever thinking like, man, I wish somebody would call me where I wouldn't attempt this? Or did you think like, only if this would have been different, I would still, I wouldn't even be thinking about it? Or was your mind just so set on the fact that I can't deal with this anymore, I've got to go? Like, did you ever think about it or anything? Or did you just say, you know what, fuck it, I'm doing it?
Yeah. I had gotten to that point where I was just like, you know,
I'm sorry
I
if you
No, I
can't
mean,
talk about it,
no,
I
that's
understand.
pretty good. It sucked because my parents were the ones that were always there,
Mm-hmm.
but I was just so set and like if I could just tell like anybody out there like there are people that care like so like you're gonna be someone's gonna miss you, you mean a lot to somebody, I mean there's probably someone out there that they don't even know me, they're watching me right now and I could mean the world to them, just me just getting on here talking with you guys,
Yes,
and
yes.
that's what people need to understand is that you're wanted and you're loved somewhere, and it's not our fault, what happened, what we went through, but we they just people need to know that there's always someone there, there's always someone there to talk to if you need to reach out, like it's even if it's just to bawl your eyes out, just make a call, that I've had it'd be like 3 4 in the morning and I get a text or anything from one of my battle buddies that I was out there with, and I don't care, like I'll be like, hey, what's wrong, man, like, hey, it's the anniversary of this or whatever, I'm drinking. I'll be like, oh, okay, well, I'll have a drink with you, cheers, and we'll cheers through the text. And sometimes that's all it takes.
Yeah. I know I can speak from a battle buddy point of view. It would have been one of the hardest things that you put your battles through. Widener can attest to that. The whole reason why we're doing this is because of one of our battles, that committed suicide, and the impact it had on us. I mean, we were speechless. And I think that the first time that I talked to Widener after it happened, I bet there was about 15 minutes of silence on the phone. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it was just I answered the phone and he was like, "What the fuck?" And I mean,
You know,
that's pretty much how that conversation went for about 15 minutes. We were just sitting there, just lost, and you know, as special as he was to us, to lose that guy, you know, it never occurred to me I was being selfish about how much I was going to miss the guy. I At the time I wasn't thinking about what he left behind at home.
Yeah.
I was thinking about what this guy, and I can't, I can say this honestly. If it wasn't for Hill, I don't think I would be where I'm at now. If it wasn't for Hill, I don't think Widener would be where he was.
no.
He was just a super person. So as a battle buddy point of view, I can honestly say that I'm glad I'm glad that you're still here with us for the fact
Absolutely.
that of the pain and the shit that we went through. And I explained to you the whole bellwether no thing,
Yeah.
when we talked, and it's a tribute to this man that was so impactful on our lives. You know Man, it was just, and what makes me sad about it is it took us 2 years to figure out this is what we were going to do to try to help prevent this happening to somebody else. So, man, I,
And, with that being said, too, is like she was saying, reach out, say, hey, talking to you, thinking about you. I used to be the person of the stigma that, well, the phone goes both ways.
Yeah.
I
oh,
think I said
fuck.
this before, and I was the biggest offender to that. Shit, I haven't heard from him. Everything's
They
fine. He
don't want to talk to me.
can reach out to me also, but that's not the right mentality to be in either.
Yeah.
If you care about somebody, you care about somebody, and that message isn't. It's just not talked about. Yeah, like Wojcik said, is thank goodness that you're still here with us. I mean, you never know who's going to watch this and be like, shit, this is huge for me. So that's, appreciated from you to be on here and talk about your experience because, we can sit here, Wazik and myself can sit here and talk all day about war stories and stuff, but that's not what we're here for. We're here to have other people have their stories heard. You know what I mean? And
So now that we went down the dark path of your life, I want to hear the success story afterwards. From the moment that you survived this, I want to know your stepping stones to where you are now.
yeah,
Well, at the time when that happened, I was in California, and I had called my dad and let him know. Well, him and my mom, they told me, they're like, you know what? Why don't you just come back home? You can stay here at the house. Go back. We'll help you. You can go to school here, and we'll just help you out. And that's what I did. I packed up my car. I came back home, and I went to school. I still had my horrible drinking habit, to drink
Oh
things
yeah.
away, uh and I still when I came home, it was still, I ended up getting, when I was in California going through all that, I had gotten two DWIs.
Hmm.
So it wasn't looking good for me, and then when I moved down here, I was still in that mentality a bit, but it was not bad. And I went to school. I went to school for business leadership. I got an associate's in that. And it was just one day when I had gone to work out at the college. I was sitting in the parking lot, and I was like, what the hell am I going to do with, an associate's in business? Yeah, I can make a business, have my own business and things like that. But like, what type of business? I didn't know. And so I sat there, I prayed about it. And like that minute, I was just like, well, hell, like, I just got through working out. Like, what can I do to like get this to other people that have PTSD? Let them know that working out is an outlet. It doesn't just have to be drinking.
Right,
Um,
right.
so I started researching like what field that was, because at the time I didn't even know what kinesiology meant or
Mm.
what anything about it. So I kind of started researching what it was like to help people, like train people or work people out. I found that, and they offered it there at the college. So I went and talked to the professor of like that was in charge of that department. And the minute I walked in, like he said, it was just something different about me. Um, we both remember it vividly. Like when I walked in that office, I was like, all right, look, I'm an Army veteran and I want to do this. I want to help people like use working out to, relieve symptoms of PTSD. And sure enough, he was like, all right, well, let's get you set up. So I started the degree plan and I ended up graduating with 3 associates in the area of kinesiology. Um, he helped me. I was one of his top students. He helped me get my personal training certification. And one thing that I do want to say though is like when I talk about helping people with PTSD, I wasn't just thinking about like military people. I was thinking of like any person with PTSD. So that's what I do, and like I find so much joy in helping people. Like,
Well, I think it's relatable for you.
yeah, and
You can relate, and if someone can relate to something, it makes it that much more. They're that much more passionate to want to, you know, help more, and that's amazing. That's amazing. That's huge.
yeah, and I love it. Like a lot of people hate, they're like, oh, like I gotta go to work or my job. And I'm just like, I don't even consider it my work or my job. Like it's just what I do. Like I can literally to the go up there and just stay there all day. I'll work out myself, I'll
Yeah.
train people, talk to people. And a lot of people don't know my story. And once I tell them, it's just like, wow, and then they kind of open up to me. And just seeing that, like, it just I find comfort in it, knowing that I can help people.
That's amazing.
One one of the biggest one of the biggest things that I see, some of the best motivators are people that have been at the bottom, and
Absolutely.
came back.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And with hearing your story and you being a personal trainer and you stepping up and you motivating these people, you take somebody that has never worked out before and they become your client, a lot of people, I've seen it time and time again. They start to work out, and after about a couple weeks, they're done with it. They're like, "Fuck, I didn't sign up for all this shit,"
yeah,
And with you being able to motivate these guys after what you've went through, that speaks highly on your character as a person. Um, I know one of the things, like we were talking earlier about our first sergeant, that we had. One of the things that motivated me about this man is, he only had one leg, and he would go on these extravagant runs. I mean, past chow time, everything, we're
Extravagant.
still running. There was times where and God, if he hears this, he's probably going to kill me for it. But there was times that he would have to change his sock, like on his bad leg,
yeah,
and we would run around him while he changed it, and then he would get up and we would go again. And like, how motivating is it that you got this one-legged man that is not stopping a run to fix his leg and get up and run again.
Well, he
you know,
didn't give up. Like and that's I think
he wouldn't.
that's the message you're trying to get at is he
Yeah,
didn't.
he wouldn't give up. And the thing is, when you think of that, it sounds crazy to like somebody who doesn't understand it or whatever, but I couldn't ask for a better motivator.
Yeah.
There's like we were talking, on our first podcast about how, it was always drink water and drive on during
Right.
our time. And, it's like I said, how do you go to somebody because you're hungover and don't want to go on the run that day? How do you go tell the guy that has one leg and is about to lead this run, knowing well past chow time and everything, with one leg, and be like, you know what, first time, I'm really not feeling this shit
I
today.
can't do it.
I just can't do it today. I
No.
mean, it was never, it was never an option, and with you being a motivator, and I hear that you're always posting positive things and trying to get people motivated. Just man, that speaks highly on your character, and I applaud you for that. Um, Man, you
I
know,
mean, it speaks a lot about her because look where she came from too.
yes,
And then she found her voice and her inspiration to keep going.
right,
If and that's the whole thing about this is if we can find people that they're going to get to that point, but they can get to that point where they keep going. Like that's the whole idea behind this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now it's going to be different for everybody, that's for sure.
right.
It's just how do we get through to everybody, and like
Once you hit that plateau and you keep going, that's huge. I mean, a lot of people, uh, a lot of people come. I think that a lot of people look at our show or our podcast and they think, all these guys are doing all the good, but when you come on and you share your story and with everything that you've went through, and you know I got a couple more questions for you, but just hearing the story is just amazing, like to me. While you were in, and like say you went to this artillery unit, because me and Widener know exactly how them artillery units are. We're pretty wild and uncouth, to say the least. Did you ever feel like, like, did you ever feel unsafe with these guys? Like, like they could, sneak into your room or, like try to take you somewhere and like do things or whatever, like when you were deployed? Or do you feel like that was never a thing you had to deal with?
No, I personally didn't have to deal with anything like that.
That's good.
I honestly felt super safe. Like, I want to say that I was blessed with like a good group of guys because it was even to the point where, um, like they'd be like, "All right, everybody out in the tent. Hernandez has to change." And then they'll be
Yeah.
like, "Oh, okay, okay, okay." And I literally have the whole tent to myself, and I'm but yeah, I was blessed with a good group of guys. I always felt safe with them, and to this day, I know that they'd have my back in anything.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I'm, I've heard stories of females, not having the best experiences, not just from the war, but from like the people that are supposedly their battle buddies,
Right.
or whatever, that are, ultimately just, sexually harassing them, and I think, we go through all these PowerPoints and these classes and stuff, eating no-dos, trying not to fall asleep during.
Yeah, yeah,
I think that is something that everybody missed the mark on, especially when you hear these stories. And I joke around about it all the time about the PowerPoint to death, and all this stuff. Um, it's one of those things that I don't think I don't think people talk about it enough. Especially the ones that went through it.
Yeah.
Um, I know personally, the females that we had in our unit, I would talk to them when I had to, but other than that, I try not to,
Yeah.
even get the rumor started that, this is what's going on or whatever, because that's not what, I mean, like I said, we were an all male unit for so long, and then
Yeah.
these females come up and we're just, oh shit, like, what do you do
Yeah.
now? Like, um, you know, I don't feel like I treated them any different as far as, just being soldiers with us, but when it came to, like going to chow or something like that, like I would always, if a female was going to chow with us, I'd always make sure there was a group of us going,
Yeah.
never just me and her, where even the rumor could even get started that I, did something, or, because I think there are some people out there that would claim something happened and it didn't really, or,
Yeah.
just, as well as I do, when you're in a wartime situation, some people look for the first way out.
Exactly. Yeah.
And if they can pin it on somebody, I was scared to death of that. I was
Yeah.
scared to death somebody would say something like that. Um, but that also goes to not being exposed to females in the military.
True.
As field artillery, we're not exposed to them. Now, if I
Yeah.
was like supply, or armory, or 88 Mike or something where you have more females, in it, I think I would have felt a little more comfortable with it. But I mean, you hear stories all the time of how, oh yeah, well, this soldier, did this, or this soldier did that, or whatever, and I just never wanted to be that guy
Yeah.
that even the where even the rumors could start about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I get what you're saying, Wazik, 100%. Um, but what's fortunate for Monica? She had a good group of guys around her, and that's
Fuck
amazing.
yeah,
And
that speaks highly on our field artillery. Just saying.
um, and still to this day, I'm sure you can call on any one of them, and they're
Yes.
Yeah.
right
Definitely.
there for you.
Yeah.
Now, with that being said, have you ever reached out to one of them when you're having I guess, unclear thoughts about you? Like, did you ever reach out to anybody in your unit that she went to Iraq with?
When when I was going through some of my stuff, yeah, I've plenty of times. And it was more like it was a lot of times during, like I said earlier, like during the anniversary times,
Sure.
and just reaching out like, hey, like, are you, how are you doing? And then we just get to start talking about, the event that happened and things like that. And yeah, I've reached out to them plenty of times. And a lot of times it's just what we need. No matter, if it's just like talking about the incident, as bad it may have seemed, or, just, hey, what's up? Any of that.
Yeah.
Like, we stay in contact. And that's honestly, I hate social media. Okay. But
I get it.
yeah. That's honestly, like, I've been tempted to delete my Facebook plenty of times, but that's honestly one of the main reasons why I keep it, is to keep in contact with my battle buddies.
Sure. Yeah. Are you
I
still in
understand.
contact with them?
What's that?
You still in contact with them?
Yes, yeah, I got
Right.
I think I got almost all of them on my Facebook.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Did you tell any of your battle buddies that you were going to be going live on this podcast tonight, where they could come and add some support for you?
I thought about it, but I was extremely nervous. uh, so I was like, oh God. But I'm glad because I think it pops up on my feed as well, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It will. Well, what you'll have to do is you'll have to share it to your feed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we do. But man, I can't tell you how huge this is for us.
Yeah.
And and
Well, for her,
man,
like for you, like
yeah,
it takes a lot to come out and just sit there and talk about if, even if it's not your whole story, just to talk about you, that takes a lot.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. Like that's huge in itself. Um, so it's appreciated, that's for sure.
Yeah, no,
So
I'm glad that I was able to come on here. If I can help anybody, anybody, I'm happy.
Good.
so one of the things that I'm going to ask you that I asked our guest last week, after sharing his story and we kind of went through the lows and the highs of his life, after speaking with us on this platform where you're going to reach these people and ultimately help somebody and maybe save a life, like we talked about, um do you feel a little bit better after doing that, getting some of this off your chest, or do you feel like there might be something else that you could do to kind of help out?
I feel great. Like I'm glad that I was able to let this. I honestly haven't spoken to anyone else about anything, or a lot of people don't know that I actually attempted suicide. A lot of people don't know that of me. So yeah, I feel like a weight kind of lifted off my shoulder just being able to share that, you know. Um, but yeah, I'm glad that I was able to do this and that I was able to share my story and get this off my chest, which I've been trying to hold in and not let anyone know the real me.
And that's what we're trying to get people to understand, that
100%.
holding it in is not going to help you at all. It's not
Yeah,
going to help the ones that love you. It's not going to help like nobody knows what's going on inside you but you. And if you don't come forward and come clean and tell people and stuff, they'll never know.
yeah,
So that's huge. And oh my God, like I can't, man, it's just when we were talking about it, and knowing what it was like to be a battle buddy of somebody that has committed suicide, and the feelings and the emotions that ran over us was just, oh my gosh, it was crazy. And I can speak as a battle buddy, that it's not the call you want to get.
yeah,
I'll never forget where I was, what I was doing when I got the phone call. I got the phone call from his cousin. I was headed to the deer lease to go deer hunting. I, the last thing on my mind was getting that phone call. And I don't think I talked to Widener till the next day about it. But like I said, it was just silence, because what do you tell somebody? What do you tell them to comfort them
yeah,
when you're hurt that bad too? And I remember sitting in my deer blind that next morning watching deer come in, and I just I couldn't focus on deer. I couldn't focus on hunting or anything. I sat there and I drank my beer quietly, just watching it and just wondering, like, what could I have done different to help this man out? This man had done everything he could to make sure that I came home safely, and then now this is this is in front of us, and what I was not prepared for that. I don't think anybody ever is.
Yeah.
um I know I know it. I didn't make the funeral because I had to work, and that's one of the things that I regret, to this day, not making that funeral. Weiner went to the funeral, and he had to see the family face to face, and that is one of the things that me and Widener talk about all the time is the family.
Yeah.
And we knew that he was our battle, you know, like without a doubt. But to hear Widener talk about how the family said all he talked about was us and, telling stories. And, to me, I feel like I let him down in so many ways. And that's why this thing is so important to me is I may not have been there for him then, but if we can, help somebody from doing this, you know, it would be huge, because we're saving that kind of pain from somebody else, you know. Um, I hear it all the time when it's said about suicide. It's a permanent fix to a temporary solution. I hear that all the time. But with something like PTSD, something with depression and anxiety and all this stuff that goes through a person's head, um, before you know the act, it makes you wonder. Is it really a temporary problem if you're going to have to deal with that for the rest of your life?
Yeah.
I mean, I, I mean, honestly, suicide is kind of a taboo thing to talk about these days because nobody wants to bring it up. You
Yeah.
know, nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to talk about depression. Nobody wants to talk about the things that we're talking about, and that's what
Yeah.
makes our podcast so crazy. And like the guest choosing and everything that we do is so articulate is because we want people that are not afraid to step up and say, "Hey, look, this is the problems that I had," or whatever. And you know, I knew going into this it was going to be hard until we started doing research. And when you start putting these numbers together and start, looking at percentages and stuff like that, like I said at the beginning, you know, we're up 85% in female veteran suicides in the last 2 decades. I mean, that's 20 years. I mean, that's not that long ago. You're up 85% of female, you know, suicides from female veterans. That's nuts. And when you sit back and you start doing this research and you start hearing these numbers, you have to sit back and it'll hurt you. It
Yeah.
will hurt you like deep down because you think about like the person that we lost. Like I said, I sit there and I thought, what could I have done different? What could I have done different? You think about that. All of these numbers. I mean, all these people had to deal with the same, questions, same, like, what if I'd have done this different? What if I'd have just went over there to go see him? What if I'd have flown him to come see me? What if, there's so many what ifs that are never answered with the suicide. Like, understand there's tragic deaths and, wrecks and, especially around here with all these crazy shootings that are going on. Like,
Yeah.
people are getting, dropped left and right. Um, it's crazy. And, when you sit there and think about those people never get to tell their story. And with what you went through and the things that happened and transpired through your life, with you getting to tell your story and you being able to sit here and tell your story and come forward and say, yeah, I did that and all this, that, and the other. Oh my God.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder how many people that did go through with it
Yep.
wish they could sit here and do what you're doing. Is mind blowing to me.
Yeah.
I mean, oh
Well,
my gosh.
um, I just have one last question, and then we can let you get back to your devices. If you could say anything to anybody going through a hard time, what would your advice be?
Just reach out to somebody, just anybody. Um, any one of your battle buddies, just reach out to them, talk to them. Um, just know that you're worth something to someone, and just don't give up. we're gonna be faced with these difficulties, but don't let it beat you, because if you choose to just let those demons win, you know, it's not just gonna affect you, like you're affecting everyone around you, like you guys said. It's like it affected you guys. You know what I mean? Like, you guys think about it every day.
Mhm.
Um,
No.
but just reach out and talk to somebody. Somebody cares about you. There's not one person out there that somebody doesn't care about.
Yes, I agree.
That's huge. Someone cares about you. Yep.
Yeah. Well, Monica, we appreciate you coming on. Uh, holy crap, man. Well,
That's a lot of heavy stuff to think about, and
it's a lot to process. You know, um, I'm proud of you. If nobody else will say it, I'm so proud of you for coming on and when I talked to you, you know, and we first talked, uh, man, I told you, like don't tell us everything. We want to know it, there. And uh, man, I wasn't prepared for everything. I'm gonna be honest with you. And when this stuff came, I was a little bit shocked. But I'm very proud of where you're at in life right now. I'm proud of you for coming up and talking to us and telling us everything. And I know it's not easy. And I think I speak for Widener also. If you ever need to speak to somebody and there's not somebody available, you call us, talk to us. We're there for you. With you being our first female guest on the Bellwether No page, you're Bellwether No family now, whether you like it or not. So, um, man, this is so awesome. I'm so proud of you. You know, I hope that the rest of everything that you do is just as successful as what you're doing now. And man, this is just awesome. I'm so proud of you. Thank you so much.
Thank
yeah,
you guys.
and you are appreciated. 100%.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys bringing me on here because, I mean, like you said, I'm part of y'all's family now. So, I
Yep.
mean,
Oh.
I considered you guys that, as soon as we started talking, because,
Mhm.
we're all brothers and sisters in this. So I really appreciate you guys and what you guys are doing for everyone out there.
Well, thank
Man,
you. That means a lot. It really does. Um, well, with that being said, I think we'll let everyone get back to their own thing, and everyone thanks for the
don't,
support, of course.
don't forget to like and share and put it on or the YouTube. Don't forget the YouTube channel.
Oh yeah, that's still there.
Plug that in. Yeah, it's still there. It's hanging on by a thread.
It's all right though. Hey, we're not in it for the YouTube. I'm in it for to talk to people. So,
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
all right. Well, everyone have a good night, and then we'll see you next time. We'll see what
All right.
happens.
Sounds good. You guys
Thank you so
will.
much.
All right.
Thank you
Bye.
guys.
Yeah.